Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Daily Detroit, coming to you from our studio at Techtown. It is Thursday, May 16th, 2024. I am Jer Stays, and across the table from me is none other than Mr. Friday.
Devon O'Reilly here
How
in the
are
flesh.
you?
I am fantastic, Jer. It's great to be here. I understand that this is now a visual aspect of the podcast, so this is awesome, something we've talked about a lot. So happy to be here, and you can actually see that I'm in this beautiful studio with you.
Right. Well, if you're watching the video version of this, of course, we're going to be audio first in so many ways, but we wanted to have video here.
Well, I want people to picture that I'm here in the studio.
Like if you're listening in the
if you're listening,
earphones.
Devon O'Reilly is sitting here in the studio with Jer across from you, drinking our coffees.
Well, this is an exciting episode for a number of reasons. We've got some interesting stories to talk about. My inbox is completely full of people wanting us to talk about the population going up in Detroit. We're going to spend some time on it. Do not worry. That's going to be a big story. We're also going to be talking about Fairlane in your neck of the woods. There's been some developments there. But first, as always, we have to start with where we've been. Mr. O'Reilly.
Why would we not? We have to kick it off. So I popped into a place again. I do pride myself on going to places as early as possibly possible. There was kind of a sneak preview of a place that has been talked about a long time. If you follow their social channels, they've been kind of teasing it. This is the Detroit Vinyl Society. It is going to be a lounge, a restaurant in the Paradise Valley area. So this is really the first real opening, the first real food and beverage concept in this kind of new reimagined Paradise Valley that I know we've touched on a couple different times. A few really prominent Black developers, Dennis Archer Jr., Rainey Hamilton, folks like that, Hiram Jackson. They are all part of this development. And Dennis Archer Jr., we know from Central, from all sorts of different things, the original man about town, you might say. He is the owner of Detroit Vinyl Society. So it's a really cool space. If you know Dennis at all or happen to run into him, he just drips kind of culture and coolness in Detroit. And so he opened Central as kind of the casual business lunch crowd restaurant, has some nice night kind of night vibes, but this is truly definitely, I think, a spot to be enjoyed in the evening and into the night. You've got the really kind of luxury finishes, a lot of the crushed velvet, the chandeliers. It harkens back. There's pictures on the wall of like old Motown clubs, the Flames, and different different kind of clubs that were in the city of Detroit. There's kind of kind of high-end finishes. The menu is light on the food, although the food they do have is kind of high-end bites. And then great cocktail menu. They brought in a really good cocktail guy, and then a really good kind of restaurant manager to manage the space. So I popped in briefly, just had a couple drinks there, but really cool space. Really looking forward to not only what this is going to be, but what it'll mean for kind of the continued development of Paradise Valley, because there's other stuff in the works there that I spoke about. I've spoken about and I've spoke to people about.
Well, that Paradise Valley area, some knew it as Harmony Park for a while, but Paradise Valley is so much potential. When you walk through that area, you think Chicago, you think New York. It's got that great kind of definition of building similar to Capitol Park does. It'd be interesting to see like that big parking lot have something get developed on it. But in general, you walk through there and I've always been kind of stunned, like, why this isn't more, right? Like, because it's so, like, the urban streetscape has so much possibility.
Yeah, but the great thing is a lot's happening. So what was able to kind of come to fruition here is you had these developers, these local Detroit developers, who bought up most of the buildings in that Harmony Park, Paradise Valley area. And yeah, like anything, it takes a while to develop something, especially if you're doing it kind of at a more local level. And so it has taken a while. And so you probably, if you've walked through there's been a lot of vacant fronts, but a lot of work was happening behind the scenes. And so I think over the next 8 to 12 months, you're going to see multiple openings of new restaurants, new lounges. I think it's going to have a great nightlife vibe. It definitely, again, it's these are Black developers. These are people. This is for Detroit, by Detroit type of stuff. So I'm super excited for, again, this and what it means for the rest of that area, because you're right. It really is kind of an untapped potential, being so close to downtown, just off Gratiot there too. Like, it's easy to get to even if you're coming in from outside of the city.
Well, in a lot of ways, I think of it as almost like it could be capital, like the second Capitol Park.
Oh, yeah.
That has that kind of super walkable vibe and everything. And I've been through there, and it's just there hasn't been things going on. I remember actually when I went to a press event for a huge thing for Paradise Valley. So it's been. I'm glad to see something happening with that because I was worried that wasn't going to work out.
And they have a conservancy set up now too. So like they're going about it the right way. So there's a Paradise Valley Conservancy that's going to kind of work to help to continue to restore it. Maybe get some of those dollars, grant dollars that come in, city dollars that come in to do some kind of restorations. And like you said, I think Capitol Park is a great kind of idea of what I think we can envision this being in a year or two.
All right, yeah. Well, I went somewhere as well.
You did.
Not as swanky.
Not as swanky,
but very nice.
A coffee shop?
Yes. So I checked out Cafe Noir, which is the newest iteration of what used to be the Kenilworth Cafe. And then it was another cafe. Like there's been a few different owners through here, but I think this iteration, they've got new murals. They've cleaned things up a bit, new neon, like new menu, new pastries, new everything. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Actually stop by this very morning for some coffee. And great addition to the north end up there on John R. Really adds an amenity to the neighborhood. Not to take away from Milwaukee Cafe, but Milwaukee Cafe is actually in another neighborhood from the north end. It's actually in Milwaukee Junction, which I'm still going to go there too because I spread the love. But yeah, I'm really glad to see this go forward. Complete remodel inside, complete vibe change, but already seeing people go in there and use it, which is great.
Very cool. So I'm love to see more coffee shops. We always need them because we talked about this before. What I love is coffee shops really help to become those third spaces, right? Where yes, you're getting coffee, but it's also a place where I'm sure people will meet up, will hang out, where people might go to work for a little bit. They really become those spaces where people can just gather, meet with people, just hang out. And it seems like this is kind of one of those coffee shops that has chill vibes, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And there's a whole little North End Main Street coming together. That row of blocks over there. I don't know if you remember it.
I do know. I'm glad you brought this up because I think one of the times I came to record at the North End studio, I did pass by here and I got coffee at a place. So this must have been whatever the iteration right before this was. I have been there.
So check that out. That's at John R. and Kenilworth in the North End. Just stop in, coffee, pastries, that kind of stuff. So pretty exciting. Glad to see something old, new. It's new, but
old but new. Yeah, sometimes you just need a little refresh.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the stories because Devon, I feel a little bit emotional about this one, but also I want to acknowledge all of the emails that I received overnight. I woke up and so, how sometimes you are in the middle of the night, you're you shouldn't, but you occasionally scroll through your emails and all of a sudden it was ding, ding, ding. And it was listeners wanting to talk about the population jump in the city of Detroit of more than 1,800 people. Census estimates now put it there. There's been some adjustments for everything. It puts up the city's rank. We're now into the 630,000s. This is a big story. I'm kind of emotional about it for a number of reasons, but I wanted to hear your first take.
Yeah, we deserve whatever, the pat on the back, the victory lap, whatever you want to say. I mean, the mayor, Duggan, has been talking about this for all his term. He basically built it. This is what I'm going to do. Judge me on if I can grow the population of Detroit.
I bet he is furiously changing PowerPoint slides for the Mackinac Policy Conference. He's probably PowerPointing so hard right now.
I hope he takes a literal victory lap around the Grand Hotel. That would be awesome.
Okay, if he starts running around the Grand Hotel, the video camera's coming.
Well, he deserves it because this is what he put his chips in on this and he delivered. So yeah, that is a big thing. And again, 1,800 people you may not seem like a lot, but man, when you're hemorrhaging residents for so long. Even stagnation becomes a goal. And if you can actually grow the population, that is fantastic. Very few cities, even in the state, are doing that. We've talked about Dearborn being one of the only cities in the last census that actually grew in population. So Detroit growing in population now. Good news for Wayne County because a lot of their cities are losing. So this is fantastic news. There's a lot of different ways to parse it. I'm just going to stay on the surface level and say this is awesome. It's great news that more people are here. I hope that this trend will continue. I don't see why it won't. So I hope we see even incremental upticks.
I mean, for me, I'm a little bit emotional because it's not like we just showed up on the internet, right? We have a lot of new listeners actually, and there's people like, where'd you guys come from? Whatever. And you sent me something on our team Slack about us being at a co-working space in 2015, giving a presentation or being part of a presentation for some people from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yep.
And it made me think about all of the journey that those of us who have been doing stuff in the city for a long time have felt. You know, like I started my career in the late 90s at Channel 4 News. My first project I worked on was the Hudson's demolition. And a few weeks ago, I got to go into the rebuilt Hudson's Tower. Yeah. And to see that come full circle is, to me, a big deal too. You know, I worked on the Detroit Regional News Hub for years as a concierge with local and international journalists. And in that, I learned that so many times we have to tell our local story better. People outside sometimes root harder and believe more in what we can do than sometimes people in our own region, because we get so jaded. We start asking like, oh, can we do it? Or, you know, we get this in our head. And I truly believe if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And to see this move forward, to see all these projects, I mean, it's a small thing. I know in context and all these other things, but it's also a really big thing. And I think it's a huge psychological win, because you look at the draft and you see all the people coming down, and that's great. But to see people choose here, have listeners be like, hey, I moved in the last 2 years. I'm calling 1,652 or whatever. That is something that means a lot. And then also to see that, you know, so many of those people connect to us is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the narrative has completely changed. And I guess, you know, the biggest thing that even I talk to people about, I mean, I think about that opportunity at Bamboo, Detroit in 2015.
Which, by the way, Bamboo has grown.
Yeah, they're now.
Like Bamboo.
There you go. They're now
in Royal Oak. They're in Ann Arbor.
They've done incredible work, and they just had that one little space kind of upstairs there, not too far from Harmony Park in Paradise Valley. Mm-hmm. And to think about what we would talk about then, we were excited about Detroit. We were really excited about it, Jared. And people like you and I would talk with much excitement. But here's the difference. We would talk about all the things that were possible, and we would talk about the things that could be, and where are we going. And now I feel like we're living in it. Like you just said, we are literally, I don't have to tell people about things anymore. I can point to them. I can show them what's happening. I can show them all the developments and buildings and the riverfront, and, you know, the different neighborhoods that are experiencing, you know, growth and investment. It's no longer, in 2015, it was all about kind of trying to get people to see what you could see. You know, we could see this. Now, I don't need to sell people anymore. We don't need to kind of talk it up. We can just see it. You see it for yourself, experience it for yourself. I think that's the difference.
For sure. And it's huge news, and I'm glad that we get a chance to talk about it. Let's talk about something in your neck of the woods, Mr. O'Reilly, because the saga of Fairlane Mall continues. It never seems to end. You know, there's been some great reuses of malls and mall space. There was the news about what's going to happen with Lakeside. They're trying to make all that stuff happen in Sterling Heights, whatever. But Fairlane has been around for a while. Fairlane is a site that occupies a key piece of land, you know, on the eastern side of Dearborn. I remember going to Fairlane quite a bit. I know you, because it was Fairlane, Northland, and Eastland for me.
Yeah, it was an early mall.
It was an early mall.
Yeah, built in the 60s.
So the latest is that we have a little bit of issues with the newest owner. Cohen Retail Investment Group is a New York-based firm that acquired Fairlane Mall, or Fairlane Town Center, technically, in Dearborn. They bought it for $52 million in the spring of 2023. They're already behind on the property taxes. The company apparently owns more than $1.7 million across their parcels. This is according to Crane's Detroit Business. They say it's a troubling sign. The CEO says that this is not a big deal, that they're just having trouble collecting rents, that they're going to go ahead and settle this tax debt within 2 weeks. However, officials in Dearborn are taking matters into their own hands, and they are approving a $400,000 contract to define a master plan for the Fairlane area because, I don't think they feel as confident that they're going to come through on this one, Devon.
Yeah, I will join them in that. So here's how I'll kind of frame this. You mentioned Fairlane Town Center. It truly is like Town Center. If you've been there, it's not only the mall, but there's a ring of all sorts of things around it. There's office buildings, there's hotels, there's other restaurant concepts.
There used to be a monorail.
There used to be a monorail that connected the Hyatt, which has been vacant for years. The Hyatt at one point was the second largest hotel in Michigan. So you have this huge, huge area, not only the mall. And the issue with Fairlane has now become that it couldn't just fail. it was still hanging on because there were people who still went there. And I went to take my daughter to see the Easter Bunny. So I was at Fairlane in April. And it's not like some of these other malls that you see or I've seen, Lakeside may be an example, where you walk in and it just feels empty. Fairlane's not empty. I mean, there's still, a good amount of vacancy, but it's not dead. You know what I mean? It's one of those, it's not quite dead yet. And so it makes it even more difficult because you're kind of watching this slow progression as it does decline. And you almost just wish, I guess this is what I'm trying to say, Jared, what I'm bringing myself to try and say about this mall that I love so much is it's probably better if we just speed up this process and Fairlane goes away as a mall.
So you don't have necessarily faith that this is going to work out?
No. And there was an inflection point a few years ago when this company, Cohen, bought the mall. There was a couple bidders on the mall. One of the bidders, one of the other entities that could have bought it, had a really good reputation for kind of turning around things, investing in properties that they acquired. And then there was this other one that didn't have a good track record. And I don't want to get into the super details. You can do your research if you really feel like it. But this Cohen Investment, their track record is not great. They're kind of known for more kind of just acquiring, sucking the money out and, letting it go away. So their track record is not good. And so I don't have any reason to be optimistic about this because what their MO is, is telling me is that they're not going to put the proper investment into Fairlane. And if that's the case, let's just speed this thing up because there's so much opportunity for development. I think, hotel, convention center, people have all sorts of ideas. You look at the Dearborn chat boards or whatever the heck you call them these days. People have all sorts of amazing ideas. And it's a great space. I mean, logistically, it is fantastic. You know what I mean?
Right next to the freeways, near Michigan Avenue, near all these things.
You're close to Detroit, close to freeways, airport. I mean, logistically, that could be quite a development. And I see what's happening with Lakeside. I see the redevelopment of Northville Downs, big projects like that. And just, my heart a little bit is just kind of let's just get to that level. I want to get to that point where we're breaking ground on something new and transformative in the city. Because right now, it's kind of just in this weird, mucky middle here.
For sure. Well, if you've got thoughts on the future of Fairlane Town Center and the stuff around it, or Detroit's population or any of that, dailydetroit@gmail.com or leave a voicemail, 313-789-3211. Devon O'Reilly, thank you so much for joining us, not on a Friday, but between all the news, the population news, and trying out here this video studio. It's a monumental day for Daily Detroit.
It really is. I'm excited. I'm glad we cut some visual. I look forward to doing much more of it. As you know, I don't mind some visual elements. See me, hear me.
All the things. And I want to make sure to thank the people behind the scenes. Engineer Randy Walker. This could not have happened without him and his work. Luciano Marcone, Cheyenne Nocerini, producers. Getting this stuff together. Everybody is very generous with their time on top of all the other projects and day jobs and everything to make this happen. So I really appreciate them. Couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely, Jared. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, look at all the, if you're watching this podcast, or you're picturing in your mind's eye, a lot of advertising space, right? I feel like there's a lot of product placement that could be going on here. So, just think about that if you want to get the word out about whatever your product is.
See, I appreciate it. Devon's always here to do a capitalism. That's for sure.
Yes. Just lean into it.
All right. Well, with that, I'm Jared Stays.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit. Talk tomorrow.